Hey friends, it's that time again. Kenny Jahng here with the AI Next series. This episode, we are going global because AI is global. We've gone far and near and searched the universe for a good friend that I've cultivated a relationship with over the years, who is someone that you should get to know if you don't know him. Natchi Lazarus is with us today on the podcast. Welcome, Natchi. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, Kenny. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
So, why don't you tell everybody where you are dialing in from for this conversation?
I'm dialing in from India, south of India. That's where, just for context, that's where Thomas, the doubting Thomas, one of the disciples,
Yes.
that's where he was killed and buried right here in our city.
Yes, the historic place. I met you years ago, Nachi. I remember you came by, and I was fortunate enough to get you to sign the book that you put out, The Connected Church. And as we go into this conversation, why don't you share with us what you do in terms of helping churches and ministries? What's your main focus these days?
Yeah, I do remember that time when I met you first. It was awesome. Went out for breakfast. I'm in India. I've been in media and marketing for the last 2 decades. Seems like a long time. And about 15 years ago, we shifted to the faith-based space completely as an agency. So we currently work with churches, ministries, and faith-based ventures. It could be any type of ventures, but it's focused on faith-based work. And we work with ministries all over the world. Most of my time now is spent in education, especially with AI in the last couple of years. But most of my time in the last 15 years have been with social media. And then slowly we started seeing the emergence of AI and how it shifted social and so on. So most of my work now is on education, consulting, and we also have an agency where we experiment with a lot of things. So I call it Natchi Labs. So we do lots of experiments and so on, which, as you know, all of us are learning with AI. So most of my
Absolutely.
time goes in that. That's what I do.
Now, I love the fact that you're a good conversation partner. Over the years, we've gone back and forth, trading notes and having a sounding board for each other. And you've seen that social media is just getting more complicated and complicated, more noisier by the day. Can we just camp out here for just for a second? Like, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in social media today, like right now?
Right now, I see a few challenges that are really staring us at our face and actually causing us to stop because at one point these challenges I'm going to talk about actually made some of our ministries and organizations that we work with literally stop them from moving forward. So the first is attention. So attention is becoming, as we all know, always attention has been a problem with social media for us to get attention as faith-based organizations, as churches and ministries. But now it's getting even more complicated because you can generate a blog post in like 3 seconds. So, blogs are increasing, videos are increasing. You can generate 100 videos in a second and you don't even have to sit and edit it. AI will do it for you. So videos are increasing. So YouTube is expecting its, so-called 500, hours of YouTube upload or whatever statistics that you see. That's just going to like 10x in the next few months.
Yeah.
So just the content overload, Kenny. It's just starting to become a problem. So that's number one, attention. So we need to kind of, talk about what we're going to talk about today, change our thinking, change our mindset, and disrupt the space if we're going to overcome that. The second big challenge is influence. So as we all know, we are all in the business of influence in another way. We are here to influence people for good, towards hope, towards love, towards the gospel, towards God. And if you and the whole outset or the premise of influence is changing. For example, with AI influencers, that's a whole different topic. Like, they're influencing millions and millions of people, but it's AI, but it's still driven by humans. So there are AI agencies that are driving it, and so on. So this whole phase or the whole subject or the whole industry of influence is changing. So that is something we have to deal with. That's something we have to think about, and we have to overcome. How are we going to influence the world for the Great Commission? And then the third is trust. So these are things I've been talking about in various events and conferences, just opening the thought process of church leaders. What do people trust today? I mean, can your audience trust what they see with all the, don't even go to deep fakes. I'm talking about like normal pictures. Like if I take a picture, I can tweak it with AI. So am I really seeing the truth behind that picture, or things like that? So every picture, every image, every post that you do on social media, comes to this question of your audience asking, is this really true? I mean, can I trust what I see? So how are we going to overcome that? So those are some of the things that we are grappling with, and these are the challenges that we are faced with. We do have some answers. We do have some potentially probable solutions, but we have to work through this. These are things that we have to work through in the days to come.
Yeah, I wonder on that trust issue in terms of authenticity of even photography, like you talked about photography, that our society has basically generally accepted, though, Photoshop manipulation, right? With models and
Yeah.
celebrities and stuff like that that are airbrushed and completely changed. That has totally driven the FOMO culture that social media has, right? I think we largely understand as a culture and society that the social media experiment where we were the lab rats failed and that social media is not a positive thing. Um, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that in terms of how is the church going to propose a solution or actually work to contribute to a solution in terms of trusting authentic voices? Like what is there? I think the solutions that we're seeing are just superficial, right? So is it an AI detector, a watermark, etc.? I think the questions that we have to unravel as church leaders and think through philosophical issues that we never thought of in terms of authenticity. What do you think on your side is what's the church's contribution to that conversation?
Yeah, I think we are uniquely placed here. I sometimes, when I was writing my book, which is yet to be released, the next book, I've been thinking about the church, and I was focusing all my thoughts on the faith-based space. But then I realized, actually, in the society itself,
Mm.
church as a church, we are uniquely placed. You and me know, we've heard stories how Mark Zuckerberg, before he launched Facebook groups, we've heard stories that he actually visited churches. I don't know for sure. I don't know the facts, but that's what we heard, that he actually visited faith-based spaces to learn how the community is built.
Yeah.
So we, as faith-based community, we have a unique standing in the society, where we have this unique combination of the society coming in person to us as a church and ministries for the most part. And then we also have this online media component to it. So if anybody can bring in authenticity by combining the real world with the virtual world in some form and way, it's us. So I feel like we have the opportunity here to play a role in making technology more authentic by kind of combining both the physical real world with the virtual world, through, if it is churches or ministries that really have a physical presence. In another philosophical context, we also are dealing with unchanging values. I always say, as churches, as church leaders, and even media ministers, we have two things in our hand. One is the unchanging word of God, and then the ever-changing technology. So here we are using the ever-changing technology in an unchanging context of the gospel. So we kind of have this ability to infuse these two together. So practically, I think we need to figure out solutions that bring out the authenticity of our content, and we also have an educational duty, in a sense, to the society, as a church, as ministries. I think we need to teach people how to be authentic, how to move away from fake content, how to move away from inauthentic content, and even empower people to create, like, user-generated content from faith-based perspective. When people create content, we need to empower them to keep it authentic, and we ourselves need to keep it authentic, so that people know that when this comes from this source, it can't be fake. Of course, the industry is trying to do as much as possible to make things authentic, to block fake news. I think even with the recent US elections, OpenAI said, they blocked so many 250,000
Yeah.
deep fakes or whatever.
Now,
So they will do their part, but we need to do our part as well.
so
Yeah.
I don't. I want to make something clear. Are you saying and advocating that we should not be using video cloning in ministry context at all? Like there's no proper or allowable places that we should be thinking about using avatars and AI cloning?
No, I think there is a place for that. But all I'm saying is it has to be clear to the public as to what they're seeing. So they have to come to a state where they're saying, if I see a content from Natchi, from Kenny, which involves AI, there has to be a clear,
Mm.
disclaimer or a clear stamp on it that says this is AI generated and this is real and this is not real. You know what I mean? So I think we have to take that stand, and we need to set the bar high, is what I'm saying. I think we need to set the standard as one of the first communities to use AI in the most authentic way possible. So we need to understand. I mean, cloning is a great way to be more efficient. Using AI avatar is, for example, for church announcements and so on, is very efficient. It's very good. It makes the communication easier. All of that is great. But all I'm saying is, at any point, people should be able to say that was made with AI. Like we are able to say that was designed by Photoshop, right? It's obviously not hand drawn, right? There is a difference between a good design that was made with a software. So in that way, I think while the industry is evolving, while governments are still figuring out the policies and so on, we have to set the standard as a church and say, this is how you declare things. This is for example, one of my friends, when he writes a newsletter, the first paragraph in the newsletter, I want to shout out to Christopher Penn, who has a great value. So
Oh yeah.
the first line says, in this newsletter, this was generated by AI. This was not generated by AI. These are the things so very clear, right? Even at the beginning, at the outset. So I think we need to kind of start creating policies that set the standard high for the world
That's
to
very
follow.
interesting. That's something to consider. In my mind, though, I think that question and that issue is probably going to be moot in 3 to 5 years, right? When AI is pervasive and everyone just understands that is something that it's just like right now. You don't need to have disclaimers or attribution of that. Oh, I used a Google search in researching for whatever newsletter or piece of work that you do. That I think that's going to go out there. In my mind, what's interesting to me is that in the trust issue, the authenticity right now. I think people are doing again at the service level of saying authenticity is skin deep in that they're using AI cloning to trick people and to
Mm.
say because I visually simulate the real thing that's where the trust should be you should lie in the trust. I think over time and very quickly, because you talked about this attention, I want to get to that other shift, the attention shift, that we're going to have proliferation of content just because it's so easy to create content, that it's going to come down to authenticity of the content, not the container. So the container itself is going to be moot at some point. People are not going to care whether this is AI generated or not. Is this actual content, is the message of value to me or not? And they're not going to care about the container. But I think that's a prediction that in a couple of years from now, we have to come back to this episode and see where society has gone, either draconian and say, no, it must be hard lines and we need to stamp everything AI or not, or it's not an issue. Let's go to that other shift, that attention shift. And you're talking about the fact that it's just we live in a society now that what is it 5 to 15,000 brand messages a day that we are being bombarded as consumers, etc. It's just going to get worse. The cost of creating content has come down to zero. We've commoditized content production. What should church leaders do to cut through that noise, especially Natchi? And I'll set this up to make it harder for you. I'm going to give you an extra challenge. I don't think churches know how to do that now or 5 years ago when it was supposedly easier with less competition. How are church leaders supposed to actually deal with this dynamic that we are now needing to cut through a noise that's even louder to get to the audience that we're trying to reach?
Yeah, it's so two things there. So one is I want to give a twist to that statement where we actually didn't even know this even 5 years ago. That's true. That's partly true. But also, Kenny, the challenge 5 years ago was even if somebody knew, for example, I would go and conduct conferences, teach people what to do, give books, do that, and then people are ready. Okay, this is what I need to do, but they were not able to do.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they knew how to get through the noise, even if they knew that they had to do one, two, and three to put out a content that's great, they were not able to. But today, the reason I want to talk about this is because actually, right now, if you know what to do and if you do it in an authentic way, there is AI can help you actually execute that. Right, if you have a plan. So that's the
Yes.
positive side. I'm an optimist, so I'm going to look at the positive side. So if you know what to do, you can do it with AI. So that's one. Number two, what can you actually do? So with respect to attention, so I have a few things which we are experimenting with, which actually works. So first is going back to the basics of uniqueness. Today, people in the social media world, even though it's crowded, even though it's chaotic, they are looking for uniqueness. They are looking for a brand voice, right? So what I would say to ministries out there is work on your brand voice, work on your branding, work on the basics of marketing, and say who is Kenny, who is Natchi, what are we here for, what is my unique voice in the space that I'm in, because it's the same gospel, it's the same message, it's the same thing, but what do I bring to the table? So I think just to work on that, and again, AI can help you do that. AI can beautifully help you generate a brand voice if you know how to, ask ChatGPT to do that, ask Claude to do that. It can give you a brand voice document if you give enough inputs on what God has called you to do. So here is the premise of my next book. It's a connection of the human spirit with technology. I think that is going to make all the difference in the AI age. I call it spirit-led intelligence. So there is an intelligence that God has put inside each one of us, inside the human spirit. And when we work from that point, so if we go to our calling and say, this is my calling, this is what God has called our ministry to do, and this is how we are going to make a difference in this world, this is how I'm going to accomplish the Great Commission in my own little way, and then go to AI and say, how can I create a brand voice for this? And then scientifically create your voice, the way you message yourself, the way you position yourself in the market. That, I think, Kenny, is actually the single biggest way to stand out in the noise. Because guess what? AI is getting smarter with algorithms on social media. If you really have uniqueness, they will project you. So today, marketing is not a problem. Discovery is not a problem. Messaging is a problem. I see with so many ministries, they are cookie cutter. They're doing the same thing again and again. They don't understand how to uniquely position themselves. If they uniquely position themselves, the more tribe they attract, the initial set of audience they attract, that is enough for AI to kind of bring in the bigger audience, because AI is so smart. Once 10 people like your content, it can go and extrapolate the characters of those 10 people and bring in 10,000 more people like them.
I think you're saying, hey, let's capitalize on what the corporate machines have done in terms of installing AI across the ecosystems in which we're using for messaging. I do think, though, it really takes a different type of mindset
Mhm.
in order to change what we're doing and look at things from a different perspective. Do you agree? Like, what type of there's got to be something else, some other type of mindset that you have to incur to be able to tackle that. No?
Absolutely. So I think we need to disrupt the system. The only way we're going to get through the noise is by disruption. And we've always talked about disruption for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to disrupt with social media, then we didn't. We caught up. We thought we were going to disrupt with the IT, 15 years ago. We did not. But actually, Kenny, we have the opportunity to disrupt with AI. So I think I've been thinking about three different mindsets that people need to have, leaders need to have with respect to disruption. So first of all, we need to decide we are going to disrupt. So once we decide we're going to disrupt, because we have to get out of the overwhelm first. Because I just want to encourage everyone listening to us saying, look, we're all learning, right? This is nobody's a guru, nobody's an expert. We are in this process together, which is encouraging. So you don't have to feel overwhelmed. All you have to decide in your heart and your mind is to say, look, I have this incredible opportunity to disrupt the space, and I'm going to do it. And if you're ready to do it, then I can share with you three mindsets that you can develop. and that can put you in the right sweet spot for making that happen.
Okay. Let's go through the mindsets then.
Yeah. So the first mindset, so the three mindsets, I'll just state them first. So first is an informed disruptive mindset, where you create the disruption by being well informed, like well educated. Then it is the disruption that causes you to be a pioneer in a space, which is an action oriented disruption. And then finally, it's being smart, safeguarding yourself. So those are the three disruptive mindsets I want to talk about. But first, let's go to informed mindset.
Yeah.
So yeah, any disruption that we see, when we look at the world and we look at all the viral videos and all the things that go viral on social media, and that things take off, immediately we want to follow that trend. But we don't realize that most viral videos are things that happen by chance, right?
Yeah.
Somebody, for example, I just a couple of days ago, I read about Gary Vee talking about somebody getting a pizza, a lot of cheese on a pizza, and that it went viral. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not scalable, right? So for us, as a church, when we are thinking of disruption, it has to be an informed disruptive mindset. So informed disruption comes with learning. So in terms of action, the where you start when you want to disrupt a space is to dive deep and learn. Kenny, you've been experimenting with AI for almost
Yeah.
2 years now,
Yeah.
since day one, and we've been talking about this. So the point is to kind of say, I'm going to learn this thing. So that's why, conference is important. Listening to conversations like this is important. Reading books. This is a phase where we need to be well informed. So our disruption is going to happen. The more we learn, the more we listen, the more we think about it deeply, deep thinking, which is becoming a rarity these days. Don't see many deep thinkers these days. When
Yes.
you think deeply, yeah. So when you think deeply, disruption stems out of that, because God can put that one thought in your heart that could help the content go viral or get people. The deeper you think, the better. So that's the first part, informed disruptive mindset. What do you think?
So to me, um, I think you're right in every single innovation front that I've actually experienced. It is taking that leap in terms of like, I'm going to clear out a lane and make it a priority. So you're going to put it on the calendar. You're actually going to be much more intentional in figuring something out. I guess it's the same thing with any hobby. So like, after 15 years or so off the golf course, I decided, hey, I'm going to pick up golf again. And so now it's just a very intentional part of my schedule to go play golf, be with golfers, watch TikTok golf videos, right? You want to surround yourself and immerse yourself in that space in order to pick up and I guess almost have a turbo boost. Is that what it is? Like that you get the benefit of that, right? That you actually have some acceleration in that space. And so I think so that I think I agree with you. I'm interested
Yeah.
in that second phase that you're saying, that just the kickstart, the pioneering disruption that you're talking about.
Yeah.
How does someone actually get to that point?
Yeah. So before I go there, I'll just connect these two. So from an informed decision perspective, I was watching this documentary of Jeff Bezos and how he started Amazon. There's a beautiful documentary on Emirates. I didn't have much time flying in, so I was watching, and he talks about how he started it by working in a data company. So he started his work in a data company as a data analyst, and the more he looked at data, creativity stemmed from that point. So that's why I think, like you said, being immersed, I like that word that you used, being immersed in this AI environment will suddenly give stem to creative ideas. And we being Christians and having God inside of us it's still, he's going to align that with our calling, and creativity is going to stem from that, which could
Yeah.
disrupt the space. Anyway, going to the next one is pioneering. So pioneering is the heart of pioneering is to say, look, nobody has done that, but I'm going to do it. Which is something I love about what you do, Kenny. I mean, just experimenting, right? Just doing things that are uncomfortable, that might fail, and that might actually cause us to be embarrassed. That's okay. That's what pioneers did. They actually, put their life on the line to go for and do things for the gospel. So if you and me are going to accomplish the Great Commission in this AI age, in this digital age, we need to have a pioneer mindset. We need to say it's okay. It's okay to be embarrassed. It's okay to do mistakes. It's okay to fail, but I'm going to try it. See, that is when disruption is going to happen, because I see a lot of church leaders doing the first part, even which is being informed. They're learning, they're educating themselves and putting them in an environment of education. But the second part, I don't see many people do. They're actually afraid. As a church, we're actually
Yeah.
almost shying away from trying things. I don't know why. In fact, if anybody should be pioneers, it's us. I mean, we are like the masters of pioneering things. We are the masters of disrupting. Jesus was the greatest disruptor. Paul was the greatest disruptor. So I just want to encourage people to have this disruptive, pioneering mindset. That is the second big thing, especially in AI, Kenny, because you and me know how many tools are being launched every day.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of them are good. I actually tried a tool 4 months ago, and I thought, it's an early stage, and I left it off. But after 4 months, they developed it so well that I got back and I said, wow. So the point is, if you don't try, you're going to miss out on that. And maybe that is what is going to make the next big, disruptive thing happen in the AI space.
So, what if I'm someone who is going through this process myself, but the peers around me, my teammates, and maybe my leader is not following suit, right? So how do you bring someone else along, especially if you're trying to manage up, if your senior pastor is not in the same space as you?
Yeah.
What are your suggestions for that? How do you get your other team members and your leaders to get into this pioneering disruption mind space?
So two practical things, which I actually implement on even in my work as a consultant. So first is I tell the leadership team and the ministry, you just have to allocate 20% of your budget for this. So that kind of immediately kind of removes the risk factor. And I say, look, AI is new. We're going to try new things. So we're going to use 80 or 70% of your budget or your effort, not just money, but budget in the sense budget of time and resources and so on. All of it for existing things that we know that could become better with AI. But the rest of the 20-30%, we're going to use it for like radically pioneering stuff. I mean, it could completely fail. It could completely be lost. That effort and money and could be lost. But are you willing to do that? So I've seen most people take that up. Very few have said no to even that, but most of them say yes, let's do that. So that's one thing, one strategy for you to kind of pitch that idea. The second is I always start with the leader. So when I go into an organization and implement AI, my strategy is I always say, let's not implement it for the organization. Let's implement it for the key leaders first. So I go to the key leaders first and I make them productive with AI. Like I give them a voice notes thing that converts their voice into a blog post, that kind of stuff. And then people are like, whoa, this stuff can do this. Let's invest. And then they become like, advocates, or they become ambassadors of the whole thing. And all you have to do is just tag along and say, let's do this, So that's my second strategy for anyone trying to implement AI in your organization or sell this idea of pioneering. So show them what pioneering can do. Show them as leaders when they do something that nobody has done. How that makes them feel and what the fruits of it can be, and that would help you, sell that.
I love it. Good suggestions. So that third phase, tell me a little bit more about that in the context of a church leader.
Yes. So what the third phase is called the smart or the wise disruptive space, where you learn about disruption, you learn about AI and start disrupting. Then you pioneer it, do some new things. But if you don't do the third phase, which is the smart or the wise disruption mindset, you're going to probably expose yourself to things that may not be good, not just for you, but for the church as a whole, even the message of the gospel, even faith-based message as a whole. What I'm talking about is putting guardrails, Kenny. So three things that I do when we start working with AI. First is I put some guardrails. There are some SOPs, there are some policies, some workflows and processes in place. So I would recommend all the ministries, leaders listening to us, do not start AI implementation without these three things. First is guardrails, which means do's and don'ts. Set of processes in AI. For example, in organizations, we never let any AI content go out without quality check.
Yeah.
Because AI is a baby, a very big, very powerful baby. I call it like a boss baby, but it's still a baby, right? Baby. So it's a baby. Any baby needs a babysitter. So any content, whether it's video or content, try to do as much quality check as possible. So that's the kind of a guardrail. Just an example. It could be completely depending on what kind of organizations you have guardrails. The second is policies, AI policies. Start with AI policy. Make it clear that this is there on your website, on anywhere else. It's absolutely important for you to have an AI policy as an organization. And then third is to have basic AI training even to your non-media staff. So those are the three things I do in this smart disruptive environment, so that when the disruption actually happens, Kenny, that we are not burnt by it. We are not saying, oh my goodness, we went all out and now our ministry is in trouble. It could be even, I don't know, legal, or it could be losing church members because you did something that you exposed their personal information or whatever, things like that. So basic policies that would say, do not upload personally identifiable information, do not do certain things, do not expose people's faces to AI, things like that, so that's the smart or the wise disruptive space. So it's almost like, if you can think of three circles, three spaces and zones that come together. So being educative, being pioneering, and then having the smart approach. So these three kind of brings nicely a way for you to implement AI and become disruptive in the faith-based space.
So, in terms of the actual leveraging of these tools, who would you say has more opportunity in front of them? Is it the church planter, the small ministry, or is it the ones with larger teams, the multi-site, the mega churches? Who do you think would actually reap more benefit from all these AI tools and workflows and agents that we are seeing happen in front of us in this milestone in history?
See, actually, it's all of them, but I think the big somebody who's going to feel the biggest difference in that
Yeah.
sense are going to be the small ministries and the church planters. So these two groups are new churches or small churches, or solo churches, and the church planter. They're going to feel the biggest impact. The larger ministries, if they are open and if they're nimble enough to kind of implement some of what we talked about, be disruptive, they actually have the biggest opportunity. They may not feel the big difference, but in terms of impact, they are the ones who can create the biggest. For example, Kenny, one of the ministries that I work with has content that is 40 years old. I mean, every week they've created content for 40 years. And imagine feeding all that into a LLM and building a chatbot based on that content. I mean, imagine the wealth of information that could come out, and the kind of content that that AI can help us generate, even creating an outline out of a 40-year ministry content. That's something that I keep doing, that I just input all the ministry content into a standalone LLM, like Llama or something, and then ask it to kind of give inputs on what kind of future content will work for this ministry, especially evergreen content that has worked well for a ministry. If you put that in and get input from AI, that could be gold. So coming to answer your question, the big ministries, the larger organizations have the potential to create the biggest impact, but the smaller ones will see the immediate leap when they input AI to their
I love
systems.
it. I mean, we're here at Exponential, and our vision is really to see an expanding number of movements of healthy, reproducing faith communities, right? And there's the part of the mission is this number of the 16% mission, right? The belief is that there's going to be a tipping point when 16% of churches become reproducing, multiplying churches, when they're sending out new church plants. And I think this honestly has an opportunity to accelerate that quest toward the 16%, because it's just going to be much more fruitful for that solo pastor, the additional campus pastor, the new church plant that gets sent out to actually build a new church community to be able to do what they are charged to do. So with that, thank you so much, Natchi. I think bring it back home to the fact that we are here to equip these movement makers, and somehow, hopefully, we're going to see more disruptors within our network embracing AI as we go forward. As we close out this episode, Natchi, I just want to go through a speed round of questions that we have with some of our guests here. There's just a couple of questions, and you got to think on your feet, Natchi, and tell us your favorite. This is just one of those things. So the first one is, which is your favorite AI chatbot? Is it Claude? Is it ChatGPT? Is it Gemini? Is it Bing? What is it? You need to tell us quickly your preference.
Claude. I don't have to think about it.
Oh, wow. What? Just give us one sentence. Why Claude, not ChatGPT or others?
ChatGPT is close, but Claude, because Claude is the one that really closely emulates who I am. It's able to learn who I am quicker than ChatGPT. ChatGPT is great, but Claude is good in personalization. I feel like it has my voice better than any other. I've tried every single thing.
Okay, awesome. The next one is, what's the latest trial account that you've set up for an AI service? We know that in the last quarter alone, over 1,000 dedicated AI apps were launched into the world. You and I are just opening up new accounts to test out things all the time. So what's the latest thing on your computer that you've opened up a trial account for an AI service?
It's a service called Syllabi,
Oh, yeah.
Syllaby, by a good friend, Austin Armstrong. Shout out to him. And I've been trying that out, not because he's my friend, but really I've been looking for another tool that could, like in video, that could quickly generate faceless, videos that could really help people. So we've been using that. We've been trialing that out for various ministry contexts by feeding in ministry quotes and things like that to generate videos very quickly at scale. Scale is the key because these are for large ministries that we're trialing out. So Syllabi.
Okay. Next question. What's one AI tool you think pastors are missing out on today? Everyone knows about ChatGPT, text chatbots, etc. What's one tool you think every pastor should be thinking about or checking out today?
It's Perplexity. I'm surprised I'm saying that. I know it's been old. I know it's been there for a while, but surprisingly, I speak to people in conferences. I ask people to put their hand up on how many people are using Perplexity regularly. They are not.
Tell
I mean,
tell us why. What's so different about Perplexity? What is it? What does it do? And why do you like it?
So first of all, Perplexity is the new search engine. I'm not saying it's going to be the only one that's competing with Google in the days to come. Now, ChatGPT's got search and so on, but Perplexity really led the way in this format. So next time you think of searching for anything other than links, like if you want links, still go to Google. But if you want information that you're searching for, try Perplexity, because Perplexity, when you search for something, gives you, what it does is it, at the back end, when you search for something, it actually combines real world data with AI. So AI goes into all the real world data and it pulls all the information, concises it, writes in a beautiful, neat format, and presents to you in 1 second. Now, especially for church leaders, I've been playing around because me and my wife, we're both studying in theological colleges right now. We're doing an online course. So we do a lot of Bible-based research as well. So what you can do with Perplexity is if you get a pro account, you can actually turn on what they call as focus, and you can switch on academic resources. So if you search for something and you switch on academic, it actually searches for theses, papers, academic resources, which is mind-blowing. So if you guys haven't tried it, I want you to try it.
Awesome. And the last question is, in the AI world, we hear this term called AGI, and those listening, if you haven't heard the term, you're going to hear about it in the next 6 months, 12 months, a lot more. AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence, right? And this is when the machine becomes much more intelligent than humans, that they can actually then reason, plan, communicate, problem solve, learn on its own, etc. And this is where we're going to have a reckoning with humanity versus AGI. What year do you think it will happen? There's all these types of predictions going on in terms of when AGI will arrive. When will we, as our AI scientists out there, when are they going to actually achieve this in terms of their programming? When do you think this is going to happen?
I think in the next couple of years, Oh, I never thought I would say it, but next couple of years, because I've been, as you know, we generate the news every week, top
Yeah,
5 news items. So one of the things we've been following last week, Sam Altman, as we record this
yeah,
just a couple of days ago, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, said it's coming in 2025.
yeah.
He literally said that on stage. So I know he's sometimes too optimistic. So I'd give it another year, but I think we are very close than what we think. But really, AGI it's going to be powerful. There's no way it's not going to come. It is going to come. But it's not going to come like a sci-fi movie version. I think it'll just be a little more useful to people and so on. But it still has all those elements and questions attached to it. That still holds good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you a glimpse, I was talking to an executive at one of the large tech companies, and this is a glimpse of it where they were training the machine, and then they realized the machine didn't know a certain language, and it went off and learned the language without asking anybody else. And then another one instance where it didn't find the language efficient, so it created its own optimized language, which is not a language that humans speak, because it realized that there was inefficiencies of what humans use for language, and they had to back that out of the machine. But again, no one knew that it actually created that stuff. So as you can imagine, it's going to induce a lot of fear and a lot of FOLO, as I call it, the fear of looming obsolescence. But I think the church has a lot to say about that, and so that's a topic for a whole other episode. Natchi, thank you so much for being with us today. Where can people follow you, get more information? And you also put out a weekly video news alert of catching everyone up to date on what's happening in the space. Can you give us your digits? What's the URL? Where do people go to follow you?
NatchiLazarus.com. It's just my name, NatchiLazarus.com. All information is there. You will be able to sign up to email. And if you're on any social media channel, I'm Natchi Lazarus on YouTube, Instagram. I'm open to DM. You can contact me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And if you're listening and made it to this part of the episode, I would love to get your feedback and your ideas, your questions, your suggestions. Who else should we be interviewing on this podcast series? What other topics do you want to go through? Do you want to learn more about AGI and what the future holds and talk about that or ethics? What are the topics that you want to do? Because we are open to exploring the topics, because this is an innovation front, and in any innovation front, we learn better together. I'm Kenny Jahng, host of this podcast series for Exponential AI Next. We'll catch you here next time on the podcast.